Upon overhearing a conversation of a rumor about the Victor Frankenstein's lab being discovered, I quickly went over to check it out. I was always interested in the Frankenstein story and had spent time after time just researching and learning what had happened. Now given a chance, I'll take it even if it's a rumor. It might also help with the upcoming remake movie my friend Bob's doing. I could give him more information. Walking through the dark steps with a candle carefully, I looked around and see glass tubes and jars scattered all over the table. There also seemed to be books spread out all over the place. I had to use a candle since there's no light. The light doesn't seem to be working anymore, so I had to use a candle. This is no doubt the lab that Victor Frankenstein had used. Everything here looks untouched since the day Victor Frankenstein had abandoned the creature. Walking through to a shelf stuffed with books, I was fascinated with the different types of books about alchemy, and much more books on the study of natural philosophy. As I was taking books out from the shelf and flipping through each of them, a worn-out leather-covered book fell out. I picked it up and flipped through the old brownish paper, trying to make out words scrawled across the pages. I see dates recorded on each of the page, and I suddenly realized that this is Victor Frankenstein's diary, written before he died. I flipped through the pages, scanning the entries, reading one of his entries to the end. Sometimes I grew alarmed at the wreck I perceived I had become.
The energy of my purpose alone sustained me. My labors would soon end, and I believed that the exercise and amusement would then drive away incipient disease. I promised myself both of these when my creation should be complete.
The entry must have been before he started his experiment on the creation of the creature. I had researched part of this before. Victor Frankenstein was fascinated by the mystery of the creation of life. Because of that, he spent years studying the human body and mastered all the stuff that his professors had taught him.
Remember, I am not recording the vision of a madman. The sun does not more certainly shine in the heavens than that which I now affirm is true. Some miracle might have produced it, yet the stages of discovery were distinct and probable. After days and nights of incredible labor and fatigue, I succeeded in discovering the cause of generation and life. After days and nights of incredible labor and fatigue, I succeeded in discovering the cause of generation and life. Nay, more, I become myself capable of bestowing animation upon lifeless matter. But this discovery was so great and overwhelming that all the steps by which I had been progressively led to were obliterated, and I beheld only the result. What had been the study and desire of the wisest men since the creation of the world was now within my grasp.
He becomes obsessive with the pursuit of knowledge of life, and starts to envision himself creating a new race of wonderful beings. Victor starts to neglect his family, friends, and his social life, passing each day all alone by himself. The only thing that Victor did not know is that his very act of creation will eventually result in the destruction of everyone dear to him. He thought everything would turn out perfect, envisioning himself being able to create new life, but his obsession with the knowledge blinded him of the consequences. In this ruthless pursuit, I presume Victor Frankenstein has started to lose himself. The obsessive thirst for knowledge can indeed be a destructive thing. It's almost the same thing as being obsessed with power and getting corrupted by it. Pages after that seem to have been torn out, leaving jagged paper marks. It must have been the entries about the process and results of his experiment. Days after the last recorded entry, Victor Frankenstein appears to have written about the death of William and Justine.
Thus, the poor sufferer tried to comfort others and herself. She indeed gained the resignation she desired, but I, the true murderer, felt a never-dying worm alive in my bosom, which allowed of no hope or consolation. Anguish and despair had penetrated into the core of my heart. I bore a hell within me which nothing could extinguish.
I read about this in the newspaper a long time ago. Justine had been accused of murder because of the picture William had is in her pocket. However, Victor knows who the real murderer is, as he arrives at the scene just in time to see a shadow of a fiend flickering away. In the entry, he blames himself for the death of the two dear family members because he created a monster and setting it loose unto mankind.
Thus spoke my prophetic soul, as torn by remorse, horror, and despair. I beheld those I loved spend vain sorrow upon the graves of William and Justine, the first hapless victims to my unhallowed arts.
Skipping to a year later, where the script on each entry seemed more rushed and urgent, that not even the date was recorded. It described the death of Elizabeth and where he was driven into deep despair. Angry words and emotions spilled all over the page. He swore vengeance in a deep hatred to the creature.
Liberty, however, had been a useless gift to me, had I not as I awakened to reason, at the same time awakened to revenge. As the memory of past misfortunes pressed upon me, I began to reflect on their cause. The monster, whom I created, the miserable demon whom I had sent abroad into the world for my destruction. I was possessed by maddening rage when I thought of him within my grasp to wreak a great and signal revenge on his cursed head.
So, this is when thoughts of vengeance starts to fill Victor's mind. This was the part I was missing from my research on Frankenstein these past few years. Victor acknowledged that the fact he brought the destruction and the misery, all because of his creation.
How have I lived, I hardly know. Many times I have stretched my failing limbs upon the sandy plain and prayed for death. But revenge kept me alive. I dare not die and leave adversity indeed.
The idea of vengeance had burned into Victor's mind and became his only motivation to live. But, ironically enough, it's like both the creature and Victor are retaliating each other's wound. If I'm not wrong, I remember the creature killed Victor's friends and family because Victor abandoned him and wants him to taste the same feeling of being alone. Victor then broke his promise of creating the female version for the creature because of all the murderous acts that the creature has done. Because of that, the creature killed Elizabeth, Victor's wife, so that he could also feel the similar pain and suffering. And now Victor turns into the very creature he despised, having the obsessive need for vengeance against the creature. And that entry marked the end of Victor Frankenstein's journal.